everybody. We have a Purposeful Living Architect joining us today on Awaken and Ascend. And as you can tell, I'm super excited to introduce Kyra Faison-Gardner to the scene. We're going to be exploring today about permission to change and shedding those old ways of being, which, as you're probably feeling into 2025 already, it's so much different than choice words we went through back in 2024 when we're really thrown into the changes that need to be made and all of the things that you experience. We won't get so much into that piece because now we have the permission to change, to become who we are and who we've always known ourselves to be, and really gather more aspects of who we are to be a fuller expression and to be able to live that, embody that, and not be ashamed of that. So welcome, Kyra. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, Jennifer. Thank you for having me. It feels like really just amazing timing that I am here so close to the start of a new year. When it feels like most people also give themselves permission to change around this time of year. They start thinking about these resolutions and intentions, like they do have permission right now for a fresh start.
A fresh start, like that even feels good, right? Just a fresh start. It's like a breath of fresh air, really, is what it is, and how it's going to move us, how we can free our spirit to direct the life that we're meant to live. And I know that you've been on a mission, because I've been reading a little bit about you, to really help women sages, right? To hold that space for them, to restore the balance of power. And more typically, you tend to work with leaders and healers and all the people that are also supporting and creating that transformation, which transformation for me is really about transcending form. So going beyond the shape our lives took before, going beyond the shape our different roles and responsibilities have taken before, and really stepping into our spiritual sovereignty, our sacred responsibility for what we truly came here to do, not fulfill expectations, obligations, and, be motivated by fear of people not liking us or not being enough, rather to really step into our spiritual sovereignty, to be fueled by our passion, which many of you have heard me say is pass I on when you break up that word, right? That I being your soul's expression of what you're here to pass on in this lifetime. So, Kyra, I'd love to hear how you do that in your work, and also what inspired you to go in this direction with your world service.
Sure. I would love to share a little with you. And before I start, I will just mention that I was particularly inspired by your use of, I think it was F.O.G.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Fear, obligation, and guilt. The F.O.G. of F.O.G. Yeah.
100%. That resonated with me so much. And although our situations were different, my journey was very similar to yours in the stages that I went through. A number of years ago, we had a horrific house fire. It was very traumatic. I won't share much about it now because I still have trouble when I recall it. But it sent me into a long period of fog, a long period of just grayness, of not feeling joy, not really feeling anything, being unmoored and losing that sense of home, both the physical home and a home within myself. And it was quite a few years that I was in that space of fog. And it was actually the birth of my granddaughter that was became my North Star. I was blessed to be in the delivery room with my daughter and son-in-law, and held this baby minutes old. And it was looking at her that I was struck with really the realization that I was not feeling joy. Here I'm looking at this beautiful baby, and I remembered giving birth to her mom and this amazing feeling that I had, this magic that was happening. And I felt great love but there was no joy. And that's when I realized something wasn't right. So I had years of this terrible, really just missing out on life, going through the motions. And then that was the awakening moment for me. That was the moment that really changed my direction. And once I started to do the work of just trying to come back to myself, to feel again, it's like the world opened up for me. It was such a gift. This little baby became my really my North Star. I think so many of us find ourselves in a place sometimes in life where we're not quite sure how we got there. We don't recognize it. We don't know where the time went. It can happen a lot to women in midlife and beyond even. It can happen to professionals where you're just doing. You're doing all the things. You're so busy, and you lose touch with who you really are. You lose touch with those dreams that were so important to you at one time. And that when I read your story, I'm like, oh my God, she gets it. She gets it. So our how we got there was very different, and I don't think it really matters as much how we get lost. I think what really matters, what we should all focus on, is how we get found.
Oh, yeah.
That was
very profound, to be found.
I think though, once you realize it, once you recognize that you're a seeker and you get on that path of trying to come home to yourself, trying to feel at home in your body, trying to create space, right? Because life can be very full, even if it's not satisfying. It can be very full of stuff, energy. And you have to first recognize that you're not satisfied. And then you can create space to bring in all that beautiful, energizing, good stuff that comes along the way. And it was
I love that it was your only. No, I was just going to say, I love that you said being able to feel again. Being able to feel again, and how we just go through the motions, because it's exactly what happens when we're just checking off our to-do list, right? We're just going through the motions. There's no sense of meaning or priority or value that we place in the things that we're doing and how we're spending our time and energy and our resources. And then we deplete ourselves, right? Because we're not doing anything that really replenishes us. And I love how you spoke about coming home. What do you think brought you home? What was it that, what was the path that took you back home to yourself, to return to your center, to be able to feel again? How did you get there?
I have to say it was curiosity. It was giving myself that permission to be curious about life again. When you become aware of the passage of time, you may miss how things were. You may miss some beautiful moments, but there's also, as an adult, that recognition that you cannot go back to that. You cannot, no matter how wonderful it was, you cannot go back to that. So what do you do then, right? So many people say, I want it the way it was. Well, okay, you can want that, but that is not possible. So what do you do from here? And once I gave myself permission to be curious about life, I was a really curious kid, grew up in New York City. There was so much to see, so many just amazing little things, everything from pigeons to monuments,
Oh, wow.
I loved it. As adults, we don't give ourselves really permission to be curious. We fall into groups and roles, and then we just do the work. Sometimes we play, but it's with less curiosity. And I think the longer you're in a role, no matter what that role is, the less curious you become to other ways of doing, being, seeing. And it creates like this groove in life. You fall into this groove, and you stay in the groove. You just keep, digging down. And you have to pop your head up sometimes. See the sunrise, see the sunshine. Notice what other people are doing. What is new? What is fresh? What's happening that you knew nothing about? To me, that is life. That is zest. And that's what I wanted more of, especially after coming out of that period. I wanted to be playful again. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to explore. And I really did have to give myself permission to do that. And once I did that, my life became magnetized. I'm an introvert naturally, so I need a lot of recovery time.
I can relate.
Yeah, I think deep feeling people tend to be that way. Yeah. We take so much in that we have to give ourselves rest. And I that was something else I learned about myself during that downtime, that I needed to give myself rest, that I didn't have to be like everyone else. It's okay to be different. I had to accept myself as I was right then in that moment. And then I could go from there. We cannot fake it. The whole fake it till you make it. I'm going to say no, thank you. I'm going to say no, thank you. I had to be radically accepting of who I was, where I was in my life, before I could build anything off of that. But it really was just this amazing permission slip from the universe to be happy. And once I accepted it, beautiful things came my way. I just met people that were great mentors and guides for me. I began studying more spirituality and rituals. I met an amazing business mentor. You know her as well.
Indeed, I do.
And I gave myself permission to keep growing. I founded a small company. I got 2 different certifications for coaching. I held my first ever women's circle. It just really created opportunities beyond what I ever could have seen coming my way.
Wow. Just being curious opened up all of these possibilities and newness that you get to explore in your life. And it does take some time of stillness, some downtime, like you mentioned, and it takes the right people to guide you, to support you. And now you've developed this whole Prospect Life and Refuge. Is that right? Is that the business that you're in now?
Yeah, Prospect and Refuge.
Yeah, and what's that about? What is the container that you hold in there?
The container is called the Stillwater Collective, and it's a sacred. Still waters, they always underestimate what's happening in those waters. But
yeah,
there's something going on in there. So it's a 3-month sacred circle for deep thinking women, is what it is, and it's space holding. It's space holding for us to be still. It's a place where we focus on curiosity. We focus on radical permission. We focus on, just all of the self-affirming practices. So I want women to get curious again. It's okay if you are not 100% satisfied with your life. We often feel guilt if we're not loving everything that's happening, if we're not totally satisfied in our relationships and, all of the material things around us. And
like we should be happy, right? Because we have all of the things, all of the people. On the outside, it looks like we have everything. So we should be happy, right? Yeah. But a full life doesn't necessarily mean a fulfilling life, which is what I'm hearing from what you're saying as well.
Yes. And sometimes we do not have the space to share that we are not fulfilled. We have great relationships, maybe very close friends. Most people don't want to share that aspect of how they're feeling about life, especially if other people are constantly giving them feedback about how wonderful their life is.
Oh, right.
You got
Yeah.
it all. You just, those vacations, we get all of the feedback on the surface stuff. And then we keep, some of that pain and discomfort buried in us. And I wanted to create a space that I would have loved to have had when I was coming out of that fog.
Mm.
I wasn't able to find that, but I did work. I worked with therapists. I worked with mentors and coaches, and was so intrigued by the work and so happy with the results for myself that I wanted to create that for other women. I wanted to make it a well-known opportunity. I wanted people to find me, people that were seeking. I wanted to be a guide for them. I wanted to use my voice and my words really to help people heal. I think that's what we need. I think that's what the world needs right now.
Absolutely.
We're all being called to step up and just do the thing you've been dreaming of. Do the thing that's been calling you. Like,
Absolutely.
now's the time. Right
Now
now.
is the time. Now is the time. For anyone tuning in right now is the time. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was, I do have a question for you though.
Okay.
And it has to do with time, because you said it and it made me think of it. When we were talking about coming out of that fog,
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a different process for everyone. Mine was a very long time, over a number of years. But do you think that that's a commonality? Do you find that it's a commonality, that process of like awakening? Is there usually something, do you see that when speaking to other people who've had similar experiences, that there's like this process of slowly coming out of it? Or maybe for some people it's a lightning bolt and it's fast. I'm just curious what you've seen with that.
Yeah, it can be both. There's no like right or wrong or perfect way of doing that, because divine timing is divine timing, right? And it does take certain conditions, though, for us to activate who we truly are and what we came here to do, right? We need the right connection for that activation and that source of power to feel empowered, to really be able to realize our potential and the way that we're living, and to move into intentional creation rather than just, checking all the boxes and continuing to move in fear, obligation, and guilt, and to transform that energy into passion, that our soul's expression of what we're here to pass on. And I wrote about this in your mentor and coach's book. Camille Miller's was the lead author in The Ultimate Guide to Leaving Your Legacy. And in chapter 5 there, I wrote about leading with passion and lighting the path to profound impact and collective transformation, like you're talking about here. Right. And there is a process that happens. And in that process, we realize that we're moving out of the ego space and mentality of having to be enough and get everything right, into stepping into that sacred responsibility and joining together with others. So connecting rather than impressing, to evolve into that collective transformation. Like, this is a lot of the work that we do in the Leadership Ascension Alliance, is recognizing your sacred leadership archetype, which is really fascinating because that gets you to the eye like right away, right? So sometimes there's a process that you're given that gets you there, but in that process, there's a lot of reflection. How true is this for me? How strongly do I agree or disagree with this statement? That leads us to discover what our archetype is. And then there's these alignment worksheets that I give where we then align and activate that truth, that soul expression of what we're here to pass on in this lifetime. And in the cycle of transformation, we recognize that we're uncomfortable, we're restless, we're not feeling joy anymore, we're not feeling the freedom anymore. We feel like something needs to change, and we have an idea of what that looks like, like returning home. It could be as simple as wanting to return home. It could be like high achievers wanting to create high impact to serve a higher purpose. So the people who are shifting out of their career kind of roles in corporate life into their calling, and then those that are in their calling into their legacy. And
Right.
legacy, like I spoke about in the book too, is about becoming a living legacy, right? Because there's a lot of loss that I experienced in my life. And when I hear people talk at funerals and wakes and celebrations of life about the person who passed, it's their energy, their essence that they're referring to. That's what they're talking about. And that's what we want to be able to radiate outwards and not bury, like you mentioned, right? And to be uplifting and uplifted out of that misery and depression, which depression spiritually and energetically is a resistance to life, and to instead embrace it, and so there's that move out of our comfort zone into our growth zone and moving up into our self-actualization or self-realization, which we never truly achieve. Rather, we're recognizing that in order to do that, we need each other. We
Mm-hmm.
recognize ourselves in each other. We recognize that it's the mentors and the coaches and the therapists and the counselors and the healers that support us in aligning and activating into that truth. So the process, and I found this universally because I've been interviewing people from all around the world, that this is always what happens, right? And then there's a decision that's made that sets everything into motion. And then we become this puddle, like suddenly we don't know anything anymore. We don't know what we're feeling and nothing makes sense. And, and then we have that rebirth, that whole experience. And that time in between is that labor, right? Of what we're going through, the contractions that happen that help us to realize what's not in alignment anymore so that we can birth into who we've always known ourselves to be, right? Our true selves. And that cycle might happen over and over again. It's not like you have one birth and then you're like, how many times have we talked about past lives? There's so many of us that have past lives like within this lifetime.
It's true. Oh my gosh,
right?
it's true.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So you felt that, you've experienced that. Yeah. And that seems to be a cycle. And there's this cycle too of having that awareness and then the rite of passage and then that rebirth. And that's typically what goes on all the time. And as far as time goes, that takes as long as it takes, right? It takes as long as it takes to get that activation. So that can happen right away. And that can take years before that happens. It's the right conditions that support it that makes it happen.
Yeah, that I love how you basically went through what that looks like, went through the cycle of what that looks like. And I think that's what drew me to Purposeful Living Architect versus Living Your Purpose. I don't know that your purpose changes, but maybe sometimes your purpose is to be living purposefully. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Because we change. Everything changes along the way. We keep evolving, as you just spoke of. It is an evolution, and I think sometimes people put pressure on themselves because I don't know my purpose. I have to find my purpose. Like, it's not this finite one thing. I don't believe. I don't feel that. I think it's a way of being. It's a way of being, and you have to keep being. You have to keep being, not necessarily doing things, but just your way of being in the world. How you're existing. What are you calling in? What are you putting out? It's beyond doing. So I just I loved how you really laid it out.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And really what I'm hearing from you again, too, is about intentional creation, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And using intuitive guidance, too, to implement those inspired ideas with intention. So how we define things, anything, any kind of experience, feeling, emotion, role that we have, it all comes from our intention behind it and our motivation for it is what creates that. And things can have multiple purposes, right? There's a little short that I have here on YouTube too, where I spoke about this little plate that I used for my cookie. And it was something my sister owned actually. And she said, oh, that's for putting your tea bags on. And I use that as an example of how this thing can have more than one purpose, right? But it's
Yes.
being curious and creative and open to what else is possible with this little plate. My cookie fits in it perfectly.
I love it.
So
I need a
is
cookie
it
plate.
just for tea bags or can I use it for cookies too? you know?
I need a tea plate. It is though. The curiosity really is something that adults just don't tap into, and
Uh-huh.
it does allow you to be playful. The
Mm-hmm.
cookie, your cookie versus the tea bag, just it
Yeah.
opens you up to things. I recently mentioned to somebody jokingly that I thought I was a dandelion.
Oh, oh
I have
wow.
these dried roses on my desk, and every day, like a little petal falls off, and it's very sad, but I didn't want to get rid of them. They're very sweet. And I
Mm-hmm.
told her, I'm looking at these roses, and everybody loves roses. They're elegant. Um, they're just admired. And when I was younger, I used to think I was a rose. I wanted to be a rose. Who doesn't want to be a rose?
Right.
Cared for, curated. But the more I thought about it, the more I started seeing myself as this dandelion.
Mm.
They're amazing. People try to pull them out all the time, but they
Mm.
have these incredibly deep roots that
Mm-hmm.
go down so deep that even when they get pulled out, they grow right back. They
Mm.
grow right back. They're so strong. They stand up. Sometimes they're vibrant and yellow and they're
Oh
tall, all
yeah.
the grass around them. And
Yes.
other times it's like this wild, crazy gray hair. But no matter what, they continue to evolve and serve their purpose, because eventually their little seeds just spread out and take root. That's that's purposeful living. Like that's purposeful living. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
I decided I'm a badass weed. I'm
Woohoo. I love that. I love that.
that's my I think that's how I'm going to go into 2025, thinking of myself as just a badass weed.
Right on, right on. It's permission to change and permission to be, I think, essentially, is what we're getting at here. Because I think the flower was a good analogy because a rose is always going to be a rose. A dandelion will always be a dandelion, right? And even in that space, there's what evolves, right? You open up, you transform, and so on. And so, what we're talking about here is that what your soul's expression is can change. Like how you express who you truly are can change. It can evolve and it can be a different. A rose can be many different colors. It could have many different scents. Dandelion changes from that beautiful, vibrant yellow, like you said, to what we blow out as a wish
Exactly.
afterwards, right? And how beautiful is that? Like we love being able to do that and see how that transforms. And so when we talk about your soul's expression, soul is another acronym, which can be sending out universal love. And
Mm.
you get to choose how you wish to do that at any given moment. And that's really your purpose, to send out universal love. So how would you like to do that? I'd love to see that in the comments. And Kyra, I love this conversation and this exploration. I wonder if there's anything else that you would like to share.
I think I would love to just remind people, everyone, you, me, all of us, that we have also permission just to be,
Mm-hmm.
just to exist in the moment, just to be happy with who we are and what we have.
Mm.
We don't always have to strive for something more, something else, something bigger. Um, it's okay to be satisfied. It's okay to be at ease. I would like to share that. It's something I have to remind myself often, because I want so much to be a force for good, be a voice, raise the vibration of the planet. I have these great aspirations, and I have to
Mm.
find myself that sometimes you have to rest and just be. Be at ease, be yourself, be at home in yourself as you are, as the moment is. Um, yeah, I think that's what I'd like to share.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that and for sharing you and your presence today. It's been so delightful. And with that, we need the outlets, to be able to be still, to be space, to return to our center. And so we'll have information about our collectives below, the Stillwater Collective, the Leadership Ascension Alliance. Information about that's below. Kyra, I want to share more about you. So we'll have your full bio and ways of connecting with Kyra, anyone who's listening and wanting to do that. All the information is below in the video description, including ways to get in touch with me, Jennifer Regular, at Lighting the Path as well. Wow, permission to change. I love it. Welcome to 2025, everyone. And I'd love to hear in the comments what you're looking forward to. Share this video. Maybe it will really uplift and inspire someone that may not know just yet how they want to be or what they're meant to do at this time. And they're very much in that place of transition. And maybe this can support them. So share this video and we'll see you again next time on Awaken and Ascend. Bye for now.